It's been 50 years since Dr. Martin Luther King was shot and killed, but his messages are just as powerful today as they were back then. And as our Brittany Schaefer explains, some of those messages were shared in Worcester.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
50 years ago, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. shook the nation.
I still remember it today. For the very first time, I saw my father cry. And he said, you know, they took him. They took him.
Robert Johnson is chancellor of the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth. He says the anniversary of Dr. King's assassination is a solemn day, especially because of his personal ties to the King family.
My Uncle Bob, who was a classmate of Dr. King's at Morehouse in a class of 48, who knew him very well, and of course Martin Luther King III, his son and I, we were classmates at Morehouse together. So this also has a very personal meaning for me. We're talking about how one individual literally transformed the world.
Dr. King spoke at the Temple Emmanuel in Worcester in 1961.
The spirit of Worcester and the spirit of what he did here in Worcester has just had a huge impact on this community.
7 years later, Worcester held numerous memorials in the days following his death.
The reaction is community-wide. You can see how long it is. It stretches way back. This is in front of the former courthouse. And later that day, the reports are that 1,000 students from Clark and Holy Cross marched down to Worcester Common and had a prayer service.
And now 50 years later, the powerful words and actions of Dr. King still affect people today.
As a community, as a country, as a world, we celebrate the legacy of Dr. King, his vision for a more humane and more participatory and more shared, a better existence for all of us.
We're talking about civil rights, we're talking about voting rights, we're talking about housing, we're talking about fair wages, we're talking about all of the legal things that are now in place that we all benefit from.
Now, Johnson says as a nation, we're not exactly where we should be, but we're doing much better than 50 years ago.